in what's being seen as a response to criticism about the way America's intelligence agencies operate. He's promised new safeguards, although he insisted the current rules weren't being abused. The issue came to light in material leaked by Edward Snowden, the whistleblower who's recently been granted asylum in Russia. His status continues to dent relations between the two countries.
U.S. President Obama says he's working to strike a balance between American safety and privacy. During a news conference Friday, the president addressed a security leak scandal and he announced changes in U.S. intelligence gathering. But he also defended the programs and had some tough words for the man who revealed the secrets.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. As I said in my opening remarks, I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference, and I think the American people's preference, would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws, a thoughtful, fact-based debate that would then lead us to a better place. Because I never made claims that all the surveillance technologies that have developed since the time some of these laws had been put in place somehow didn't require potentially some additional reforms. That's exactly what I called for.
President Obama has been under intense pressure ever since Edward Snowden began his leaks in May. He's had civil liberties groups, he's had internet companies going public, complaining about the style and the nature of this data collection. Today, in his last press conference before he goes on holiday for a week, he came out and announced there would be changes. He announced that they would have greater oversight in the Foreign Intelligence Security Court. They would have an adversarial lawyer, which they haven't had up to date. When the government goes to get warrants, they've only had to ask a judge. Now they'll have a lawyer opposing those applications for warrants.
Despite this, Obama confirmed that the US would not be boycotting the 2014 Winter Olympics in Russia. There have been calls for the Games to be moved elsewhere in protest at anti-gay laws recently passed by President Putin.
The ministers agreed to continue efforts to hold an international conference on Syria at an early date. The two countries are trying to bring together representatives of the Assad administration and the opposition. The ministers also reaffirmed that they will work to promote bilateral military exchanges. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry demanded Snowden be extradited to the U.S., but the Russian officials did not respond to the request. After the meeting, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said there is no legal basis for such an extradition. Lavrov criticized the U.S. for canceling the talks between Obama and Putin over the Snowden issue.
To say that this particular instance is a good reason for questioning the relationship, I believe is not wise.
But Lavrov said there is no Cold War between the two countries and they will continue discussions on issues on which they hold different positions.
He's open to changes for that one part of the spying programs, the one that focuses on recording the data of telephone records in the U.S. Not mentioned any talk of curbing what they are doing overseas, or changing how they monitor or copy internet traffic. The most specific proposal, a possible change to the secret court that approves the spying, adding a kind of defense attorney. Right now, only government lawyers argue before the judges. Last year, they asked for 1,789 warrants. Not one was denied. 40 were modified, but still approved. Even in this proposal, the president left himself an out.
Among the reforms, work with Congress to change how the NSA collects massive amounts of phone records, mandate more transparency by the secret court that regularly approves the surveillance, and create a task force of private citizens, including civil libertarians, to review the programs.
All these steps are designed to ensure that the American people can trust that our efforts are in line with our interests and our values.
As for his cancellation of a planned summit with Russian President Putin, triggered in part by Snowden, the president tried to downplay their lack of personal chemistry.
What's also true is that when President Putin, who was prime minister when Medvedev was president, came back into power, I think we saw more rhetoric on the Russian side that was anti-American, that played into some of the old stereotypes about the Cold War contest between the United States and Russia. And I've encouraged Mr. Putin to think forward as opposed to backwards on those issues, with mixed success. I don't have a bad personal relationship with Putin. When we have conversations, they're candid, they're blunt. Oftentimes they're constructive. I know the press likes to focus on body language, and he's got that kind of slouch, looking like the bored kid in the back of the classroom. But the truth is that when we're in conversations together, oftentimes it's very productive.